Do you hate ads? I hate ads. You know what I love? Patreon.com/inkdependence, where patrons get access to a patron-only Discord, ad-free videos, and the joy of knowing they help support this channel. Hello folks, welcome to Inkdependence. I'm Mike, and today I have a new ink for you from Franklin-Christoph. This is called Bronze Age. Now, full disclosure, my wife does work at Franklin-Christoph, and they did give me this bottle of ink for free for review, but I do try to keep all that kind of stuff out of my reviewing. I just happen to be a Franklin-Christoph fan, so I end up with a lot of those pins and have way before she was working there. So, this is a new ink from Franklin-Christoph, and it's been a little while since they had a new ink, so this is kind of exciting, and I was surprised when she brought it home for me to try out. So let's take a look. This is available on Franklin-Christoph's website currently. It's a 30 ml bottle, and 29.5 mils, it says here, and it is $9.25, so a very good price for this ink here. So let's check it out on some paper. All right, there we go. This is Franklin-Christoph's Bronze Age on my Nebula Casual Note paper that I've been enjoying for these reviews for the last, year or two probably. And the flow here, I say is pretty medium. I have this in a couple of pens that I know really well, and I'd say it's pretty medium. The color of this ink is a little bit hard to pin down. It is a really interesting sort of brownish color, as you can see there, but it is actually very close to the color of patinaed bronze. So not this part right here, because this is really just kind of too dark, I think. This is a tactile turn pen that is made of bronze that I've had for ages and ages, and I never unpatina, so it's just kind of like kept building layers over time. But it's actually pretty close to like this interior section here, which is just a little bit patinaed there, as you can see inside the sliding bit. I think it's pretty much perfectly that color, which is really interesting. This is not a color that I was really expecting from Franklin-Christoph. So yeah, really cool color, definitely up my alley and in my wheelhouse. Performance, a little bit of bleed on the 20-pound copy paper. We'll see that sort of thing here soon. Qualities, it's an unusual color, which I think is neat, and it has some really nice mild shading. Most of the inks that I pulled for this one end up in sort of the swamp vibes or weirdo green-brown sort of areas, but we'll see those soon when we take a look at the color comparisons. The pens I had this in were two. I have had it in this one for a bit longer. This is a Parker dual fold. This is one of the newer dual folds, and it has a really nice nib. I really enjoy the nib on this thing. Look at that like beautiful two-tone nib. It is marked as a fine, but it is not really that fine. It's more of a medium, maybe a large medium, and quite wet. So it's a pen though that I've had inked literally for years with various inks. I never don't have this one in use, it seems, so I must really like it. And I had this ink in here. I'm like, yeah, this is really good in this pen, but you don't see too many fines that are really medium broads with like a super wet flow. So I went ahead and put in something a little bit different, which is this one. This is a Platinum 3776, and I believe this is the Oshino, which is just sort of clear, and this has a broad nib on it. So the broad nib, as you'll notice in the writing samples and such, looks a whole lot like this fine dual fold, which I think is entertaining. So you can see here, not a whole lot of difference between those two when you look at them on the paper, but I do think that the ink from the fine nib there is darker in general than the ink from the broad nib. I think the broad spreads it out just a little bit, and it's not quite as wet as the dual fold's supposed fine nib there. All right, so comment section here. This is brand new to the FC ink line. Bronze Age is a really interesting color. Brown with a bit of gray and yellow. It does look like slightly patinaed bronze. Nice. You can see here also 30 ml bottles, $9.25, and there is the chromatography. We'll take a look at that while we do our water drop test here. So as you can see there, this is a really cool set of colors, and I was not expecting there to be this many things in there, although really I should have, because brown inks traditionally have all kinds of things going on in them. Whatever ink colors you mix together seems to be some kind of brown. That's usually what you end up with. And here we have like grays and sort of like a greenish color in the middle there, and then this beautiful periwinkle. Who saw that coming? And then orange, and then bright yellow, and this like kind of void in between them. Really pretty cool. I'm not seeing much movement here. That's pretty impressive. Let me grab something to mop this up with. All right, so let's go ahead and mop this up. I'm not seeing much movement. This might actually have some water resistance. Yeah, how about that? So we did get some brownish ink coming up. Just kind of looks a little dingy, honestly. And then, yeah, not bad. It's not what I would call waterproof, but definitely there's a lot of gray left over. This bottom layer here is, pretty water resistant. So that's kind of cool. It might not survive, a watery accident with as a brown ink, but as a gray, you'll absolutely be able to recover what you wrote. All right, so here is our 20-pound, 30% recycled copy paper. This is from Staples. It is what you'll find in your office copier as like sort of the cheapest thing on the menu, and it's really good with laser, but it is not great with ink, and that kind of holds true here as well. The color looks perfectly fine, but you'll see that there is some spread and things do like moosh together a little bit there, like when I wrote platinum here, just kind of mooshed together. And on the back, you do have some bleeding. This is more than I would say ghosting, definitely some bleed, but most things bleed on this paper. It's rare to find something that does not bleed through this paper. So that's what you can expect. It will look perfectly fine on the front page if you're going to make notes or whatever, but the back will be a little bit of a mess. So this didn't get on the facing page that was behind it, so I wouldn't worry about that too much, but it did definitely come through the back. So you're probably not going to use both sides. I have it here on two different papers. Firstly, let's go ahead and look at this one. This is my Tomoe River Galen Everyday book. This is kind of kind of a throwback, I guess, because it's hard to find this original Tomoe River, but it is still a gold standard for ink performance and look. So here I have these two samples. You can see I didn't ink them up at the same time. It was like, a little bit after each other. Here, as with the other papers, darker from this supposed fine nib, but a nice rich kind of almost woody brown there. And then from the Oshino's broad nib, a little bit paler, but still extremely readable and very pleasant, I think, on the old eyeballs. So yeah, looking good. Next up is my Inky Fingers notebook. This is wheat straw paper, which again is hard to find. The papers I picked as sort of standards are not really around anymore. Such is life, So this is kind of like what you'll get from sugarcane paper, I would say. And here you'll see on the left the dual fold nib, and on the right the Platinum 3776. Again, darker from the dual fold, slightly lighter from the 3776, just because of the different ways that nibs work. So yeah, I think it looks delightful from both. Again, I like this ink. It's a good ink. All right, so for comparisons, I did pick a bunch of colors here, so let's go take a look at some of these. Not all of them are that close, although there are a couple that I'm like, oh, this is really interestingly close. So here is Franklin-Christoph's Bronze Age. This is, of course, on a col-o-dex card, which I got from my friend Anna over at Well Appointed Desk. These are great for your ink collection, and it really kind of shows off the very the interesting shading you get from this ink and the colors that are available in there. Next up, I have this one because somebody asked me about this on a live stream, and I was like, oh yeah, Dusted Truffle. That does seem like the right color, but as you can see, Dusted Truffle, also a shimmer ink, it's different in that it's a shimmer ink, but it's also a lot lighter, I think, than Bronze Age, so not really much alike at all. Then next up, this is a little bit more similar. This is KWZ and Cult Pen's Brown Green, which is a really kind of weird color. It's slightly less green in real life. The camera is making it look a bit more green than it actually is. Sometimes with these really unusual colors, my camera is like, I don't know what to do with that. So it's a little less yellow in real life, but nonetheless, a lot more yellow than Bronze Age. Next up, we have here Irishizuku's Tsukushi, which is again warmer than Bronze Age, but definitely in the same family. And then oddly, Platinum Sepia Black, which I wasn't expecting it to be like at all. These are iron gall inks, and they do sort of darken and age with time as you write with them, which is really neat. But it's a little bit lighter as well, but kind of still related enough that I'm like, yeah, let's throw it in there. Why not? And then lastly, Sailor Rikyu Cha, no, not lastly, penultimately, Sailor Rikyu Cha, which is very close to things like Shirakashi from Sailor and some other inks as well. But this one is kind of an all-time great, and it's really fairly close. It's definitely got more yellow and green than you'll find in Bronze Age, but again, they're birds of a feather, even though they're not that much alike. Lastly, and I think this is the closest one. This is Birmingham Pinco Brushwood, which I got a couple of years back, and man, this is a cool looking ink, and it's kind of a lot like Bronze Age. It turns out, if you look at the corner bits in there, it is it is different. Like in the writing, it's actually lighter, and then some places in here, it's actually a bit darker, and it is a bit warmer in tone, a little bit more yellow than our Bronze Age, but it's very close, isn't it? Isn't that interesting? So Brushwood, there you go, from the crisp formula, which means this will be a little bit drier on the nib than this one, which is medium and maybe a little bit wet perhaps, but not too much. So yeah, if you want something a little drier, maybe find Brushwood if it's still out there. If you want something much more medium-ish, Bronze Age. That'll do the ticket for you, or do the thing for you. All right, so there you go. That's been Bronze Age from Franklin-Christoph. It's a brand new ink from Franklin-Christoph, and I love when they release a new ink because they always do a good job with these. And the price is right at $9.25. Just super good price for this ink. So check it out at their site. Probably not at a pen show unless it's one of their local ones because they just don't fly with much ink. But definitely find it on the site. It's a great add-on to pens and all that sort of thing. So until next time, peace out.